Hello, YouTubers, friends, compatriots, bootlicker, shills, debt slaves, serfs, peasants, vassals, minions, meat sacks. I'm a useful idiot, and let's talk about the invasion of immigrants. And because Trump is the one that talks about the country being invaded by immigrants, and then talks about the unsavory nature of these immigrants, of course, there's a large portion of the country that will just completely dismiss this idea that there's a massive crime wave and that we are being invaded by immigrants crossing the border. And to bolster that, we have a lot of the liberal politicians and liberal media talking about the fact that crime is actually going down and that all the immigrants that come here are a big boon for our economy, and that that this characterizing of this as an invasion across the border is not accurate and the like. And of course, the media has been amazing in this defense of what is going on. But this isn't mythology. When you have the numbers of immigrants pouring over the border, a lot of them not processed correctly or vetted, and they're just pouring into this country. And then uh, we have to circumvent the actual border. We have the Biden administration actually arranging massive plane um, flights from all over Latin America and bringing immigrants and illegals into this country. And then we also know full well that a lot of these countries in South America and these governments in South America are facilitating the migration of these immigrants up through the very lower parts of South America, all the way through Central America and Mexico, and then into the United States. And it's a very lucrative business because when you have the cartels, you have grifters, and then you also have the government arranging to have these people moved from the south to the north. It's just good business. And then, as Trump has pointed out, we have a lot of these countries like Venezuela who are emptying out their prisons, and they're emptying out their mental institutions and shipping these people north. And there's a precedent for this. There was a point where Fidel Castro allowed a huge amount of Cubans to migrate to the United States, and the United States opened our arms to them, and it turned out that Fidel Castro did exactly that. He emptied out his prisons and emptied out his mental institutions and the like, and sent them all to the U.S. So this isn't unheard of, and there are certainly big precedents for it. But it's a huge industry now, and like I say, it's discredited because Trump talks about the invasion, talks about the fact that all these criminals are being shipped here, but it's truly a fact. And anyone that even does a casual perusal of the news every other day, it seems like we see another story about an illegal migrants perpetrating horrific murders and rapes. And so this just isn't something made up. And as we also know, we have a lot of these migrants being shipped all over the country on the taxpayer dime, and a lot of them end up in a lot of very small communities that can't absorb these kind of migrant populations, and um, and then find themselves having crime rise and things happening in the communities that they've never seen before. But there's a number of figures that have come out. I think the best one I've seen thus far is as of July 2024, 662,566 non-citizens uh, that have criminal records that have been sent into this country. And one thing that's important to realize about that is that 600, not only is 647,000 of them not detained and just released into the United States, but those are only the ones that are going through the ICE system and going through the border system. So they're documented as to entering this country, but then you add all the other ones who basically are loose and don't go through the border system, they're crossing the border, but they're just not going through the border system, so they're not even documented as coming in this country. And it's pretty safe to assume that if 662,000 that are documented to have pretty heinous criminal records, then we could easily have another 4 or 5, 600,000, a million more. And so we definitely have a crime wave in the United States that's based on illegals and so-called migrants. And like I pointed out earlier, we're seeing stories every other day of illegals and migrants perpetrating just the most heinous crimes. And half of the illegals in this country are unemployed. And so that helps bolster the idea that not all these immigrants that are coming into this country are somehow falling into the American dream. And what we're also finding that's getting documented a lot is that, for example, we have a lot of very organized criminal groups. We have these gang members from Venezuela, for example. They're very organized, they're very savvy, and they get into this country and they don't need to be employed. They're out there selling drugs, doing smash and grabs, doing a lot of burglary, doing a lot of theft, and they're very organized. So we have virtually new South American migrant criminal gangs who move up here and reconstitute their criminal activities here in the United States. And like I pointed out earlier, this is happening in major cities like Chicago and New York, but now they're getting spread out across the United States so much we're finding these kind of criminal gang activities popping up in really small communities as well. I think what I heard about uh, uh, Haitian immigrants, for example, when you have a community of 20,000 and you move 5,000 Haitian immigrants there, it's going to have a huge impact uh, uh, on these communities in multiple ways. But another thing that's interesting about these migrants that are coming to this country is these promises. And so not only are these South American governments getting rid of a lot of their own riffraff, but there's a lot of attraction for these people to come to this country. Um, it turns out that one Venezuelan immigrant that was interviewed talked about the fact that she's getting $15,000 in food stamps, $5,000 cash, 6 months free rent, and they get priority. They get priority in Section 8 housing. And then they also can end up on Social Security and Medicare. And so these benefits far outweigh a lot of what's available to a lot of U.S. citizens. And then so there's a lot of allure to come and play the system and game the system. And then on top of that, we also have a huge amount of sex trafficking going on. So we also have migrant gangs that are involved in this. But the amount of sex trafficking that's going on from children coming over the border is really astonishing, and I'll do a separate video on that. But this crime wave by migrants is not a myth. It is happening. It is for real. And the idea that Kamala Harris could end up being president and continue this policy is something we should all be disturbed about, because I certainly have never seen anything like this in my lifetime. And then if Trump becomes president, of course, there's going to be a crackdown. There's going to be mass deportation. And interestingly enough, 70 to 75% of Americans, both Democrats and Republicans, now favor that policy because they see the same things on the news, and they are disturbed by it. And so there's no party allegiance when you talk about something like this that's certainly distorting the very fabric of American society as we've known it. And if it continues to grow, we're going to be in a lot more trouble than we are in now. I'm a useful idiot. Don't you be one too?